Hey, welcome back to the Be a Maker Club podcast. We're here today again with our guest host, Rob Perhamus, who is the founder, president, CEO, chief philanthropist of You Makers Makerspace in Upland, California. Hi, Rob. Welcome back.
Good morning, Zach.
Hi. So today I have a very interesting topic I want to talk to you about, which is the American dream. What is the American dream? What's happening to it, and how are makerspaces uh, now and in the future going to contribute to the making of the American dream?
Okay. So, the American dream, and you'll see this throughout the news, is dead. A little bit more about that, and what's that mean? For instance, it was pretty easy for this old boomer, pretty easy to go to college for free, pretty easy for a young couple in their early 20s to have an income that was one and a half, to buy a house, say if you wanted to get married, have a house, have a couple of kids, all that kind of stuff. So it used to be that, for instance, we bought our house in North Upland for 1.4 times our income.
Right. Wow.
And houses now, to live that same dream, okay, in this area are 8 times our income. So, of course, college isn't free anymore. And some people have said it's unsustainable. And some people have said because of technology, we haven't felt that yet. Why wouldn't, if you were a professor, a world-renowned professor, why wouldn't you have your classes from your house for 1,000 students at a time if you're just giving lectures and stuff, okay? That's Peter Drucker. We have all these facts that have kind of gone on there. The big one for me, too, is aging populations, which you'll see globally.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all over the place, okay? And first recognized, they've known about it since the early 60s, when the baby boom was just not even full baby boom yet. And the big thing is that we live longer. And the big thing is that the way we had set up pensions was that they would cover life for about 2 years. And now baby boomers won't die.
Right.
And all these other impacts, like they like to age in place. 9 out of 10 want to age in place, which basically on real estate says I ain't selling. So if just supply and demand, okay. So if they won't sell, okay, then the price goes up.
Right.
For instance, I could say I won't sell unless somebody says I'll give you $1 million for your house.
Right.
I'll say no. I say how about 2 million? Yeah, maybe 3 million. Done. I'm selling it. So that just drives up just supply and demand on those kinds of things. So anyway, back to makerspaces and the impact of them. I think we said before, I look on Bard or Gemini and it says there's 14,000 makerspaces now.
Yeah.
Now, why so many makerspaces? Okay, well, because you can get access to tools to make things. We have these other things called e-commerce set up so that we can sell our products globally. Okay, and the big thing is, I think 70% of millennials have side hustles.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they have side hustles, all this does, makerspaces, it allows them to do a side hustle. And I'm not saying maybe not huge, but it's pretty easy based on the equipment we have here to make maybe $2,000 a month.
Extra.
Yeah.
Extra.
Well, the median income in Upland is $40,000.
Right.
So if you add 24,000,
That's substantial.
that's pretty good. And if you're a
really
couple,
good.
you add an extra 50,000.
Yeah.
24 times 2. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you look at barriers to entry and risk. When you start a business, there's always risk. You have to be able to take some risk. But if you compare to doing this on your own, okay, makerspaces provide you access to tools and all this other stuff, training, for less than 2% of the cost of what other people do, and even your exit plan.
Mm-hmm.
Say you say, oh, I'm going to make something, and nobody buys anything.
Yeah.
You say, okay, I just lose $75, and you're not stuck with a lease for instance, that goes on for 3 years,
Yeah.
and you have to keep paying and paying and
Yep,
paying,
yep,
or you
yep.
have to do bankruptcy and all that kind of stuff. So,
So, so, Amit, so one big part that you just addressed. So, if we look at what in popular culture constitutes the American dream, one is house ownership, and so a related aspect of that is how much income you're making in order to pay for the house.
right.
So, makerspaces can supplement your income with
Yes.
low risk, right? That's so what. So, what are the other things then about the American dream? Because it's not just the financial and the physical stuff, right? There's a culture around this as well, which I mean, I'm an immigrant, right? And I think I've said this a few times. One of the things that I was really excited about when I used to watch media about the U.S., especially suburban America, for me, it was always people working on their hobbies, like people fixing cars, bicycles, making furniture. And it wasn't just one person, it was usually like the father and the son and the grandfather or the neighbor or and I was fascinated by that. I was like, this is amazing. I mean, I would love to do that. And now I'm a little disappointed. I live in suburbia. I actually am one of the few people who's doing that stuff, and there's not that many people in my community that seem to be doing a lot of work. In COVID, a lot of houses, suburban houses, got fixed up, but they were all hired out contractors. So
Yeah,
I'm wondering, is that part of the American dream? Maybe that.
sure, and you could say the word you used several times in there was community.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about a makerspace,
Yeah.
okay, it's a space where a community comes in and uses equipment. So it's like-minded people
Right.
that want to do it yourself, okay? And so I certainly think that the American dream is that you share, like you were taught when you were young,
Mm-hmm.
to share your toys. And so it's a continuation of that thing when you're a youth. So for instance, I'm retired, but I continue to share my toys.
Right.
But the difference being that my focus is to, I volunteer 84 hours a week, okay. So, but what I do is I enable the community, because makerspaces, they're not, you can't do them globally, really. I suppose you could do a franchise.
Right. Right.
But
I mean, you mean you can't do the same makerspace setup globally, right?
yeah, and even if you looked at a franchise, who the hell would want to buy a franchise where you have to volunteer 84 hours a week?
Yeah.
And they do. They have a makerspace. In some ways, you could say the American dream, and this is really weird. If you provide, excuse me, if you provide people with the means of production, they will improve their lives.
Yeah.
So you could say, oh, you're a Marxist. You're all socialism. And I would say, well, I guess with all the colleges with makerspaces now, I guess what we've done, in the libraries, with all these makerspaces around, I guess we've turned socialism. But I don't know that we really have turned socialist. It's just that we're using, like, the internet to enable us to do more and more things. Like you can teach most of the classes online
Mm-hmm.
on how to make different things. You can do YouTube
Right.
and find out how to make things.
So I
But
think the term that you use was not, so it's increasing access, so democratization, right? Everybody has equal access now,
yeah, we
as opposed
democratize.
to like everybody forced to do something together.
Yeah. So people do this. They come over here, and the people that make things for money, they
Yeah.
do it for themselves.
Yes.
They're not employees.
Right.
There are no employees here.
And that's part of the American dream, right? That you able to leverage your own ability to cash in on an opportunity,
Your
actually.
own gumption.
Yes, your own gumption.
If you have the desire to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had many people say that here. They said, God, there's no way. I'm young. I
Mm.
can't even afford a house, let alone a garage. So how could I do a garage startup?
Right.
I can't be Hewlett Packard, Apple, uh, um, Harley Davidson, all these companies of the past,
Yeah.
Google,
Yeah.
that started in garages. Well, and you'd want to do that when you're young. Okay. Well, you can't do it anymore. That American dream,
Yeah.
because you can't afford a house.
Yeah. I mean,
Because you can't have a garage.
Right.
Because you don't make enough money. So wages have not, in many locations, have not kept up. You know, because if that were the case, like for instance my house, if it's 800,000, right, and the formula is 3, I'll use a 750,000 for my house.
Yeah.
So 750,000 would mean that my 25, 22-year-old wife and I would have to make $250,000 a year. How can you make $250,000 a year 1 year out of college, 2 years out of college, even the first year?
Yeah.
Not around here.
No.
Okay. Those types of jobs went away with manufacturing. Why are colleges, why does Harvard have a makerspace? Why does Stanford have a makerspace? I think somebody along the line has recognized the value, the educational value of learning a tape measure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My personal experience too is that when you go to engineering school, you don't make things. Used to be, you made things, so you become an engineer. So America has always been known for being the innovators, the creators of new things.
Yes.
However, those things were created in many cases in manufacturing. We offshored manufacturing. So where are the innovators and creators of the future going to be?
Right.
They're going to be in China or India. And they're not going to be part of the great American dream. You know, now, on the international basis, yes, I think they will go. You know, all tech companies have a makerspace.
Yeah.
Okay. Colleges have makerspaces.
Mm.
There's just not, the reason I'm doing this is because.
So, sorry. So
Right.
I do have a question there.
Yeah.
Because we know that the number of makerspaces are going up. So I want to maybe go in a little bit deeper into this. So clearly all the elite colleges, all the big companies, all the tech companies. So any place that you think of having clever, smart people has some type of makerspace. So so it stands to reason that if they recognize that a makerspace is important, makerspaces are important generally to economic productivity, to creativity, and to innovation, right? But those makerspaces are not community makerspaces. Is that correct? Like that's
correct.
and that I think that maybe that potentially is one of the things that is stopping the American dream or not contributing enough to the American dream.
Yeah, there's a few things along that line. Most, not all, but most college makerspaces, that's for the students.
Right.
So, for instance, in Upland, the educational attainment of a 4-year degree is only 30%. So, by being those kinds of numbers, you're restricting, your makerspace to a very small percentage of 30% of the population.
Right.
So what this makerspace does is different, is we enable the 70%. We don't, if you have a 4-year degree, like I do, no, I have a 6-year degree, you're allowed to come over here. We're not going to restrict you. There's no barriers. There's no barriers like getting into college. What are those barriers? Most top colleges, what do you have to be? The top 10%. At least, maybe the top 5%. And they have acceptance rates, some of them of 2%.
Right.
Okay? And even on that, it costs an arm and a leg. Okay? So there's all these barriers to entry. So maybe I should call myself U-Makers University.
Yeah.
Maybe I will. Maybe someday I'll become a .edu instead of a .org. Because I do. I teach engineering, how to make things.
Yeah.
I teach engineering here.
Yeah.
Just that portion of it. So.
No, so okay. So we've got economic necessity. We've got enablement, right? And you touched a little bit about. So I think the third part I think was access to knowledge.
Hmm?
And some might argue that in today's world, hey, we have YouTube. Like, if you don't know something, just YouTube it. But why do you think then that's not sufficient? Like, if I want to make a candle, right? Just I want to start a candle making business. I can go on YouTube. If I want to start, literally, like, there's some really complicated things on YouTube. I'm or maybe I don't know. Maybe that's why you need to have a makerspace to come to, where you can see other people.
Yeah.
Because there's some things that I don't want to just do it off YouTube, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the factor is, but one of the things I've noticed over time is that it's why not here?
Mm.
So I see innovation and creativity in tech companies in Silicon Valley
Right.
or Silicon Beach.
Mm-hmm.
However, around here, you would think, with, for instance, the Claremont colleges over here, that after all these years, it would be Silicon Claremont. But the way that it happens, has happened so far anyway, is that those that are truly creative, they move away.
Right.
They go to work, and computer science is popular these days. They move away, they go to Menlo Park,
Mm-hmm.
and they call it the brain drain. And unfortunately, for the Inland Empire in particular, my observations have been it's trucks and sheds. So, although if you're in the Bay Area, uh, someone young, and I've seen many people do this, they might say, my grandfather was an entrepreneur. My father was an entrepreneur. And this is like our whole economy.
Mm.
When I grow up, I'll be an entrepreneur. Unfortunately, around here, it's much more like my grandfather was a forklift driver.
Right.
My father was a forklift driver. When I grow up, I'm going to be a forklift driver too. We call it different names. We call it global logistics. We call it international trade. We call it supply chain management. It goes by a bunch of names, but it's basically trucks and sheds.
Right.
So I don't know why that is. Okay? So when you look at all these startups that happened very young, Michael Dell,
Right.
he started while he was in college. They were passing parts between dorm rooms,
Yeah.
to do that. So why don't they do it today? I mean, I've had friends that started businesses while they were going to college. One guy became a lawyer, but when he was at Penn State, he started a hat making company, a hat and t-shirt company, and that's what paid for his school. Here at this place, we have one of our members who made $15,000 on her Etsy store while she was going to Cal Poly Pomona.
Wow.
Okay. Other people that seem to attract themselves, in my opinion, I have people that Elon Musk's lead architect for the Boring Company has been here and learned how to use a CNC router. Elon Musk is pretty famous for saying, I don't care what kind of degree you got, show me what you made.
Mm-hmm.
So, he did that. Have other people here that made an incubator for biotech. Okay? So we had somebody here, and the guy was over across the street at graduate school, and then he got his first job working for Kite Pharma, and I can show you MIT's magazine. Kite Pharma was number 7 out of Tech's 50 smartest companies.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
Kite Pharma, and I asked him. He's very modest. Okay, but he made this cooler. My son-in-law has a doctorate from Tulane in that medical field, and he said that incubators cost about $70,000. Okay, so this guy made one out of a cooler with Arduino, I think, or Raspberry Pi, and he made it for like $100.
Wow.
So that would, citizen science, they call it, coming up with new inventions and stuff like that. The drugs, in some cases, There's lots of stories about people in the past. Some guy said, I need a cure for measles, I think. And so he had this theory, and he gave his kid shots of this stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of a.
So
But
okay,
there's all
so
kinds of
I'm
historical
I'm
things.
sensing like the slight change in the story for or the narration that you're making is that, you did say that maybe 30% of Upland maybe has a college degree,
Yep.
but you're focused on the 70%. But what from these examples, what I'm sensing you're saying is that the fact that people with an advanced education, when they come into a makerspace and they encounter physical making, it might change how they approach even higher level or highly engineered problems, like like that medical incubator that you
Yeah.
talked about, right? So I mean, would it be I don't know if you can conclusively say that, but the fact that that person was able to come here and look at the physical setup, maybe look at other people making things,
Yep.
that could have inspired them to make like a cooler based $100 incubator. Would it be fair to kind of say that, like, and maybe that's what makerspaces can start doing?
Yeah, I think that although I have heard, we've had people who run makerspaces now. They came over here, they made something, they got a job as a result of having maker skills
Yeah.
to run a makerspace
Right.
at Chapman University. Now, I'd have to verify this, but I've heard that many of the colleges make their students sign a piece of paper that says they will not sell anything made at the makerspace. You can use it for learning, but you can't sell anything.
No.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of dumb.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, so the traditional challenges of big bureaucracy that generally plague education, higher education, are essentially also impacting makerspaces because we're not like literally this physical location of U Makers is what, half a mile from the Claremont colleges,
Yeah. About
and they're
one.
1 mile, okay, and in the Claremont colleges there's a pretty high tech makerspace, isn't that? Or maybe one, or maybe
Yeah.
two.
At Harvey Mudd, they have a $30 million makerspace.
Yeah.
Of course, how do you pay for that? You know, you charge the students a lot of money.
Right. And I mean, look, it's completely fair too, right? Like if you build something that expensive, you need to recover that money. I'm not implying that that by itself is the problem, but the fact that there is no makerspace available that does other stuff is potentially where the problem is, right?
Yeah. Different people understand the makerspace at a different level.
Okay.
One of the former presidents of Harvey Mudd, I met with her before I opened my place.
Okay.
She was very excited about it, and she said, "We know that we need to have a makerspace here. It's very clear. Our students go from here they go on to MIT or someplace like that, and so they need to know how to make things."
Mm-hmm.
And Maria herself said, if you read about her, she was always tinkering with stuff when she was a kid. Okay, and also it's kind of a different form. She's a very good painter.
Okay.
Okay, so she says, we know we need to have one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited that you're going to have one, so they can, until we get ours done, they can be part of the community innovation and creativity movement that we would like our students to participate
Gotcha.
in. Okay, and enable some other people and do the community kind of thing for the greater good, so to speak. Well, it didn't quite turn out that way. I did have a few students over.
Okay.
But one of the things that I found from the students from Harvey Mudd coming over, engineering students, is unfortunately they had never made anything.
Hmm.
And when they got the tools, even a table saw, they were dangerous. They were going to hurt themselves.
Right.
Right? And that's not the way engineers used to be. Engineers used to be people who liked to make things became
Right.
engineers.
Right.
So now people, they're in engineering school. Yeah, they have really good grades in high school. So yeah, they can get into a really good school. And yeah, they might have to pay a lot of money to do it. But anyway, they can get in. And, when they get the right degree, they can come out with much better than a much better income. They can move to Menlo Park.
Right. Right.
And they can make a lot of money up there. But unfortunately, when they do that up there, the couple that wants to live the American dream of buying a house and having some kids, they can't, because it's like a $4 million house
Right.
instead of a $750,000 house. So we just don't, we're out of sync. We just don't have the jobs. There is some speculation that certain types of economic development, where they have, these days a lot of computer science or digital, and you can do remote jobs.
Yeah.
And given a choice between a $4 million home and an $800,000 home,
Mm-hmm.
based on an income of say $250,000, I think I'd rather work remotely in a small town environment. Okay, as long as it had a makerspace.
Okay.
So a small town environment like Upland.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's why we're here. Okay. They say that makerspaces too, where do they locate? I've seen maps of this. They locate where people have 4-year degrees at least.
Mm-hmm.
And 4-year degrees. They say that people with those advanced degrees as well are more likely to become entrepreneurial.
Right.
I mean, if your whole life has been driving a forklift, you just think about, do I have enough food to eat?
Right.
Can
Right.
I pay the rent? You don't think about these extra things
Mm-hmm.
of starting up the next Hewlett Packard. You
Right.
don't think of those things, or
Right.
the next Disney. You don't think about those things. You don't even think it's impossible.
Right.
So that's a little bit discouraging when you think of the American dream.
So I mean, I guess, I mean, I'm feeling like you're maybe making the point that even though the students have access to makerspaces while they're in college or maybe at a high-tech company, if they work remotely, they also then need access to a makerspace in the community that they're in, right?
Yeah.
Because in these makerspaces, they may face restrictions like the one that you mentioned, where if you're in a college, you can't use your makerspace to generate a side hustle for yourself, which is, I mean, I can imagine that's a great thing for a college student, because not just the fact that they can make money from something that they have created and sold, but they're also learning entrepreneurship.
Yeah. When one of the complaints I have about, that goes along with the cost of college and stuff like that too. On a relative basis, how many days per year are schools open?
Oh, I don't know the exact number, but I know it's
180.
180. Wow.
How many days a year are there? 365. They're open about half-time. If you wanted to start a business, okay, I don't know of anybody who could say, oh, I think I'll start a business and I'll just work half-time.
Right.
You kind of could, but you're cutting off all your customers
Mm-hmm.
for, all these. And when do you cut them off? You cut them off because you can't make stuff for Christmas break.
Right.
That's an opportunity, okay? For Thanksgiving,
Right.
for a holiday, for St. Patrick's Day, these different events and holidays and stuff like that.
Okay.
The other thing that makes, part of the thing that's changed, and a lot of major manufacturers, they really don't want to deal with the public. They want to do B2B.
Right.
Okay? They want to do large volumes. One thing to be aware of is that consumer markets have changed considerably and continue to change. Okay, one of the things perhaps you've read, 150 Macy's stores are going out. They're closing.
Yeah, I did read that.
Big
yeah.
retailers are going out. Another thing that's going to happen.
This just happened in 2024, right? This announcement.
Last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they just announced that. But you think of these other places. Remember that place called Sears?
That's kind of before my time. I feel like before my time coming to the U.S. actually. So
You know, Sears was very popular. They started with a catalog, and then they just didn't upgrade and stuff like
hmm
that. Um, remember the Bookworm?
no, definitely not.
That's a bookstore.
Wow. Okay.
So, you know, what did Jeff Bezos do? He sold used books. He was a book salesman,
Yeah.
bookstore
Yeah.
salesman. But he just looked at things differently,
Right.
and he used a different channel, right?
hmm
So if you think Amazon, if you think he's not successful,
Yeah.
see, my big question or my big wish is that the next Steve Jobs or Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk lives in Upland.
mm
And the reason I would like to see that is because they have enough money, whatever the issues are, and we in Upland we like to complain about potholes.
Right.
If you have enough money, you just say, you know what, repave them all. It's only $1.5 million a mile. Here's $200 million. Fix them all now. You're not waiting on tax money and all that kind of stuff. Just fix them all now. So that would be very desirable to have filthy rich people
Yeah.
that live in Upland, but it's like, how do they get their start? And I continue to say this. You look at all these garage startups of the past. Doesn't it really depend on who shows up?
mm
More than anything else, they have to have a place to go to.
Yep.
Okay. You know, you could say, look back on some different people have said things like the beginnings of the Renaissance, and they said it was coffee shops. One guy does a thing on coffee shops. The big thing it was is a place for people to hang out and socialize.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I guess you could do all your socialization 12 hours a day online. I suppose you stay in a Zoom meeting like that.
Sure.
I know that in the past they have had failures of this, so now they got this big problem. They say, okay, go ahead and work from home. Then they say, no, never mind. Now you got to come back to work. Well, I've already moved to frickin' Utah,
Yeah.
you know. And they say, well, if you're going to stay and work in Utah, we're going to cut your wages in half because you don't need as much money there as you do in Menlo Park. Well, you didn't tell me that. you changed on me. That's right, it changed. So what? And you know, there's some that do the conspiracy theory that say they did that as an experiment to get rid of people,
Right.
which is just a standard kind of thing. You know, the cost of college bothers me a lot because it used to be free. But you would think that, you know, I was in business, you know, like the basic things that you do as a business person is you can make things faster,
Yeah.
better,
hmm
or cheaper. So if you have a business department at your college, why are things more expensive? They keep going up. It should be that they have the efficiencies, you know, where it actually goes down. Well, you can't go down less than zero, you know, but it certainly shouldn't be these outrageous costs now.
Right. Right.
Tuition trauma, as they call it.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sensing like a clear theme. So basically, what's happened is that higher end resources, higher end makerspaces, they're all chasing only one type of, or they're consistently available to one type, and a very small segment of the population. Like you know, even people say if everybody's working remotely 12 hours a day, right, online, if they're asked to create a business, they're not going to create a business with a physical product. I mean, it's highly unlikely. Let's not say not. That's highly unlikely because they're consistently working in a digital environment, right? And you know, one of my theories always is that something very simple, like, and I think you've said this too, right? Humans, we evolved as a species because we learned to make, and until we live in our physical form, that's never going to go away. And so we need to consistently innovate in that space as well. Like, I mean, it's even evident, I feel like, even in a Tesla car, right? Yeah, it has AI, it does collision avoidance, it has the software, but somebody has to make the frigging car, right? The physical car has still got to be made. And I think if we lose those skills and we don't innovate around that part, we're not actually moving ahead, right? There's going to be a balance, right? You can't just move ahead on the intellectual, technical, soft side. You also need to move ahead in the physical, environmental side, right? In the real world, so to speak.
Yeah. In the United States, after World War II, a couple of differences. First of all, there's like something like only 60% of people in the United States had a high school degree.
Okay.
Now it's gone to like 90, right? The other things that kind of happened were from 1946. Okay, college used to be free, so more people could go. So the rate of that was going up. And there's many graphs and reports on how entrepreneurship, which is part of the American dream, I'm going to own my own business, that entrepreneurship has taken a nosedive, and it correlates heavily with the number of people, the percentage of the population that works in manufacturing. It used to be 1 out of 3. You might even say, remember Lucille Ball? She's on a construction, working on a conveyor line and stuff like that, making fun of it and stuff like that. So it's gone from 1 out of 3 people in the United States to 8% of people, in the United States, and most of it has like been offshore. Okay, so we're down to like 8%, and that's highly concentrated into defense.
Mm.
Pretty much in defense. But all the other things that make life, our furniture, our kitchenware, our just our bicycles, or whatever, all this other stuff, it's all been made outside.
Well, I mean, we got a taste of that,
And I
right?
hate to repeat myself, okay, but I'll say you can't teach creativity.
Mm.
You give people access to tools, and they become creative.
Right.
So, said in a very rude way, okay, the same thing. If you don't have access to tools, you're just not creative.
Okay.
If I were the CEO of a Fortune 500 company or a tech company, I would interview with that first question. Show me what you made.
Right.
Oh, you have a PhD from MIT in mechanical engineering? Show me what you've made. I'm sorry, you've never made anything. A picture frame, a chair, anything like that. I don't want you. Because I know that I can find somebody else that's gone to a makerspace and they've made things. Okay? Which is also part of, I think, the college having makerspaces and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they know that we're deficient in that area. They know we screwed up when we took away shop class in high school.
Mm-hmm.
They know it, okay? So they're doing something about it. It's going to take us a decade or two to even get back to there.
Yeah.
And then even that's an experiment.
Yeah.
I do read in some colleges where makerspaces, they go downhill. If you look at maps of where makerspaces are, you might find it interesting too. Austin's got like 8 of them.
Mm-hmm.
What else do you know about Austin?
Oh, in Texas, it's a liberal city. That's all I know, actually. I don't know much about Austin.
And didn't Elon just move there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Why would he move there? So he would move there, I believe, because he can find people, not just at the college, but in the community.
In the community, yeah.
That know how to make things.
Mm.
And that's the kind of people that he wants because he thinks they are more creative. So, here's on that.
Okay. Oh, I mean, I think this was a pretty well-rounded discussion. So the takeaways for me were people still want the American dream, but the components of the American dream have changed because we've had a steady erosion of some core skills in our society. And also, makerspaces are part of the solution, but also a very specific kind of makerspace, right? Like the elite makerspace, so to speak, is not accessible, right? So by that very definition, no matter how good it is, it's not going to bring those skills into the larger society. So what we need more of, if not temporarily on an ongoing basis, is a community makerspace, right? Where the barrier to access to entry is much lower,
Yeah.
right? And then I don't like one of the things that I've known, especially here in Southern California, because there's been a few makerspaces around here which were community makerspaces, but they haven't survived because it is kind of tough to keep a makerspace going. What you're doing is fairly unique, right? You're doing it out of it's a philanthropic effort mostly, right?
Yeah.
That is
Well,
that is that is that is unique.
I think you should also always consider WIFM. What's in it for me?
Right.
So I have found that people who make things, in general, are nice. So because I'm a baby boomer,
Yeah.
and I probably won't die till I'm 90, so I'm going to be on the dole on a charity called Social Security for maybe 30 years. I'd really like to hang out with nice people.
Right.
So degrees and diplomas don't make you nice. PhDs don't make you nice. In some cases, they make you arrogant. In some places, you have an attitude where you think you're all that. Nobody wants to be around that kind of person. Now, they're not. It's not always that way.
No, I know.
But many people who they get with their education, they associate social status,
Yeah.
how cool they are, how likable they are, because of the degrees they have. I haven't found that to be the case.
Yeah.
I can find somebody with a high school degree, okay, and they're nice. So what's in it for me? I want to hang out with nice people.
Okay.
So what's in it for other baby boomers that have been like me? Start a makerspace. You know you got enough money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't take it with you. Okay? You lost your kids, you did the right thing. You know, they're both independent and killing it or whatever. You know, they're doing great. So why not? Why not die broke? Why not die broke? Which is kind of a funny book.
Okay.
And other books of interest that might be related to this are on Amazon. You can find Boomers, the sociopaths who destroyed America.
I'm going to conclude this by saying that thank you for the insight on, I think, how makerspaces contribute, specifically community makerspaces contribute to the new American dream, which is not new in the sense of that it's just new in the sense that it's an ongoing American dream for a new population, right?
Yeah, it's as old as dirt.
Yeah.
But just refurbished.
Okay. All right. So thank you again, Rob. Till next time, when we have Rob back on the Be a Maker Club podcast to talk more about making and how it makes a difference to our lives.